Sometimes the most exhausting part of being treated poorly isn't the behavior itself, it's the case you keep building afterward. You explain why the comment hurt. You provide context. You soften your tone so they won't feel attacked. You find the perfect example, the perfect wording, the perfect moment, and still end up arguing for something that should not require a closing statement. Basic consideration. And there is a reason people can stay trapped in the cycle for years. It has less to do with getting the other person to understand and more to do with what their refusal to understand might force you to admit. We'll come back to that. Maybe you know the cycle. Someone cancels on you again after you arranged your week for them. You say, I just wish you told me earlier. They reply, why are you making this such a big deal? So now you are no longer talking about the cancellation. You are defending your right to be affected by it. Or a partner makes a joke at your expense in front of other people. Later, you explain that it embarrassed you. They say you're too sensitive. You pull out 3 more examples, hoping that enough evidence will turn your pain into something they are willing to respect. Or perhaps it's subtler. A friend only calls when they need support. A family member repeatedly ignores a limit you have clearly stated. A colleague speaks over you and acts surprised when you finally object. You start rehearsing conversations before they happen and edit your feelings into language that cannot possibly be misunderstood. And when nothing changes, your first thought is not always, what is this showing me? It's often, how can I explain it better? Now, to be clear, people are not mind readers. Healthy relationships do require communication. A caring person can miss you and make a thoughtless comment, misunderstand your need, or become defensive in a difficult moment. One bad response is not automatically a character verdict. But the difference is what happens after clarity arrives. A mistake can be followed by curiosity and repair. A pattern is followed by repetition, minimizing, excuses, or a temporary improvement that lasts only until the pressure is gone. That distinction matters because the first layer of this problem is often ordinary human difference. People have different standards, habits, capacities, and histories. What feels obviously considerate to you may not be obvious to someone else. Some people grew up around direct communication. Others learned to avoid conflict. Some care deeply but lack emotional skill. So yes, explain the need, but explanation is meant to create information. It is not meant to become your permanent job in the relationship. When you repeatedly try to convince someone to treat you well, you may believe you are fighting for the relationship, but your nervous system may actually be fighting against uncertainty, rejection, or grief. If you learned early that closeness had to be earned by being useful, easy, patient, impressive, or endlessly understanding, you may associate love with successful persuasion. You do not simply express a need, you present it in the least inconvenient form possible. You anticipate rejection, you reduce the cost of caring about you. This is people pleasing at a deeper level. It is not just saying yes when you want to say no. It is believing that another person's respect depends on how flawlessly you explain why you deserve it. And when they occasionally respond well, the cycle becomes even harder to leave. Psychology calls that intermittent reinforcement. It simply means a reward becomes more compelling when it is unpredictable. If someone dismisses you 5 times, then becomes warm and apologetic the 6th time, that moment of relief can feel unusually powerful. You think, there, oh my goodness, they finally get it. We've turned a corner. They may not be doing this deliberately. They may feel genuine regret in that moment, but inconsistency still affects you regardless of intention. Your brain begins chasing the next good response, and every new explanation feels like another chance to get it. There is also cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding 2 conflicting realities at once. This person loves me. This person repeatedly treats my needs as unreasonable. Now, to reduce that discomfort, the mind often creates a third idea. They will treat me better if only they fully understood. That idea preserves hope. It also places the solution entirely on your communication, even when the evidence suggests the issue may be willingness, capacity, compatibility, or priorities. Now, let's imagine Mia. She has a close friend, Lena. Lena often makes cutting remarks and later calls them jokes. The first time Mia says, that landed badly. Lena apologizes and Mia accepts it. Then it happens again. Mia explains more carefully. Lena says Mia knows she doesn't mean anything by it. The 3rd time, Mia sends a long message describing her childhood, her insecurities, and exactly why public jokes affect her. For 1 month, Lena stops. Then the comments return. Mia concludes that she still hasn't found the right words, but lack of information is no longer the problem. Lena has enough information to make a choice. may are growing explanations and not producing clarity. They may postpone Mayor's own decision about what repeated disregard means for the friendship. And this is where people often get it backward. A boundary is not the most convincing argument you can make. A boundary is the decision you make when the argument has given you enough information. You cannot use perfect communication to manufacture someone else's motivation. You can make your experience clear. You can listen to their perspective. You can allow room for repair, but you cannot reason another adult into valuing what they repeatedly choose to dismiss. That does not automatically make them evil. They may be emotionally immature. They may be overwhelmed. They may have different ideas of closeness. They may lack the capacity to offer the kind of relationship you want, or they may simply benefit from a dynamic which you keep adjusting, and they do not. Intent matters when you are trying to understand someone. Patterns matter when you are deciding how much access they should have to you. So, turn the camera around for a moment, not to blame yourself, but to recover your agency. Are you asking for clarity, or are you asking for an answer that lets you stay without changing anything? Have you communicated a specific need, or have you hoped they would infer it? When they do respond, do you measure the quality of the apology or the consistency of the change? What are you afraid will happen if you stop explaining? Perhaps they will call you difficult. Perhaps the relationship will become distant, or you will have to grieve the person you hoped they could become with you. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes your repeated explanations are no longer the acts of communication. They are negotiations against the evidence. You are trying to get a different verdict from the same behavior because accepting the verdict would cost you something. Closeness, hope, identity, history, or the fantasy that patience always earns love. But understanding why someone behaves as they do does not require you to keep volunteering for the impact. Compassion can explain a person without making them compatible with your life. So, what do you actually do? Start by naming the behavior in obvious terms. Not, you never care about me. Try, you've cancelled within an hour of our plans 3 times this month. Facts reduce the temptation to debate motives. Next, separate the event from the story you are telling about it. The fact may be that they did not reply for 2 days. They are punishing me is an interpretation. I am unlovable is another. Stay with what you know, then ask for information if it is needed. Clear boundaries are strongest when they are not built from mind reading. Then communicate once, directly and specifically. You might say, when jokes are made about me in front of other people, I feel disrespected. I'm asking you not to do that again. If it happens, I'll leave the conversation. Notice that this does not contain a 20-minute defense of any humiliating hurt. It names the behavior, its impact, the request, and what you will do. After that, watch the response, not only in the conversation, but over time. A healthy response does not have to be perfect. The person may initially feel embarrassed or defensive, but do they become curious? Can they acknowledge impact even if their intention was different? Do they make a concrete repair? Does their behavior become more consistent without requiring repeated emotional emergencies from you? An unhealthy pattern may look like changing the subject to your tone, demanding impossible proof, mocking the boundary, punishing you for raising it, or apologizing beautifully while changing nothing. Finally, choosing a proportionate consequence, not revenge, not a dramatic retreat. A consequence is simply how you manage your participation. You can end the conversation when the insults begin. Stop making plans that require reliability from someone who is repeatedly unreliable. Share less personal information with someone who uses it carelessly. Move a friendship from intimate to occasional. Seek counseling together if both people are willing, or when the pattern is serious and persistent. End the relationship safely. Forgiveness does not automatically restore access. An apology may settle the past. Trust is rebuilt by what happens next. And remember, boundaries are not tools for forcing compliance. You have to change is a demand. If this continues, here is what I will do is a boundary. The other person remains free to choose. And so do you. Now, what does healthy treatment actually looks like? It does not mean never being hurt or misunderstood. Healthy people still make mistakes. The difference is that your pain is not treated like a debate. They must win. You can say that hurt me without submitting a legal brief. They can say I didn't intend that, but I can see the impact. Both people are allowed to have needs. Both people are just. Repair produces learning, not just relief. Healthy relationships are not free of conflict. They are relationships in which conflict gives you more information and over time, more safety, not a growing sense that you must become smaller to keep the peace. So that reason this pattern is so difficult to break. Stopping the persuasion means allowing the answer to come from behavior, and behavior may give you an answer your hope has been working very hard not to hear. That answer is not always, they do not care. It may be, they care, but not in a way that creates a healthy relationship. It may be they understand, but they are not willing. It may be they are trying, but their capacity and my needs do not match. Or it may reveal that you were unclear and there is a genuine room to repair. Either way, reality becomes kinder than endless confusion, because reality gives you something you can respond to. You do not need to punish people for being unable or unwilling to meet you well. You also do not need to abandon yourself while waiting for them to become ready. Say what matters clearly. Leave the room for human error. Pay attention to patterns. Then let your decisions say what your explanations no longer need to repeat. Where in your life have you been searching for better words when the behavior had already given you useful information? Can you put that in the comments? Thank you for watching and listening. God bless you.